And, of course, like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe. We have tons of NFL draft coverage headed your way. We've already released player profiles on a ton of players throughout the country. And so please check those out. And, of course, we'll have NFL draft coverage coming your way. We also did a conference realignment conversation just a few days ago as well. All right, on the Buckeye recruiting trail, the news is good, and it gets better and better, and it continues. I got to tell you guys that I think I made mention of this a couple of weeks ago, that I bring on other writers that cover other teams, and they look at me when I ask about recruiting updates like I've got three heads or something, because they just figure, well, it's dead, it's shut down, nothing's going on right now. But not with Mr. Ryan Day and that stellar staff. Tunmisi ADELEYE is what we're going with, I believe. I think Tony's approved that. Always wanted to be a Buckeye, at least since that 2015 national championship game, a Texas native, Steve.
Yeah, it's crazy. Ohio State.
Read your book is probably what happened.
Yeah, it's crazy. The rich just keep getting richer. Another defensive end, 6'3", 240 pounds, out of, as you say, originally Texas, but playing at IMG Academy. And Ohio State's done a good job down there. I know LeJon Cavazos was a guy there this past year that they took in the 2020 class, and now for 2021 they've got ADELEYE. And Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, all those schools wanted this guy. Everybody who competes for a national championship every year or is in the running was after this guy. So that'll tell you you're recruiting the right guys. Number 41 in the composite. He's their fifth top 50 prospect in this class, and it is entirely possible that they could still sign another 2 to 3 or 4 more guys out of the top 50 in this class for what appears is going to be the number one recruiting class in the country this year. I wonder how anybody could possibly outpoint these guys when it's all said and done. So they'll have spots that'll open up later. When you think about guys like Sean Wade going pro, a couple of the other guys that my brain is not functioning properly at this point, but my thought was they'd have at least 3 guys leaving early for the NFL, opening up scholarship spots. So, yeah, it's going to be another great recruiting class for Ryan Day. And there are people, I saw one post on the Michigan message board that, what are people in the ACC going to do about Clemson? What are people in the Big Ten going to do about Ohio State? Because nobody in either league looks like they're going to have the personnel to touch either of those programs anytime soon.
Yeah, Steve mentions the Big Ten. Ohio State right now with 11 top 100 players in that composite, and the rest of the Big Ten has 4.
Oof.
Two of them belong to Michigan. I think one to Maryland, one to Penn State.
And they're not going to play as an all-star team, are they, Tony? They're going to play as individual colleges against Ohio State?
That is correct. One school at a time. Yeah, they do not mix and draft.
That's actually a good idea.
There you go. We should make – that's a show right there. We can draft an opposing team to face the Buckeyes.
I know who would coach it. 44-time Big Ten Coach of the Year, Kirk Ferentz. He'd be the coach.
I know who wouldn't, Jim Harbaugh, because it would be a Big Ten championship game. So, but and then the rivals rankings, Ohio State has 12 commits in the top 103, and the rest of the Big Ten has like 5. 3 of them are Michigan commits. So it's the gap that we've talked about in the past continues to widen, at least in recruiting. We'll see if it means anything on the field. It tends to mean stuff on the field, and this is Tunmisi ADELEYE is the 3rd top 100 defensive lineman committed to Ohio State right now. Already got Jack Sawyer out of Central Ohio, who's a 5-star top 4 player, and then Mike Hall, another Ohioan defensive tackle, top 100 guy, top 10 defensive tackle. So that's Larry Johnson doing what he does. And I think Greg Madison was also in on ADELEYE. So just, more of the same. It had been a while since a commitment. So, it had been almost 3 weeks now. So we were wondering, had Ryan Day lost his mojo? But apparently there's still a little bit of mojo left.
I got to tell you that, of course, they're wrestling. When we talk about top 50 and 100 and 150 players in the nation, we know who they're wrestling them away from. These kids must have a I don't want to say better perspective, but a broader, maybe a wiser and more in-depth perspective on what's going on in college football than much of my viewership, because they think that 2014 national championship was like decades ago, and who would want to touch Ohio State if you can go to Clemson or Alabama? But these kids are obviously seeing some worth there in Columbus.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm writing a daily series about past recruiting classes, and I'm up to 2003. They signed a guy named Dante Whitner, who was a big-time defensive back out of Cleveland, Glenville, and they had just won the national championship, and they really didn't parlay it into a lot of success in the 2003 class. In fact, a funny story that I'm writing about, when they were parading from the airport back to campus, they came through downtown and people were on the sidewalks and cheering. Channel 4 was showing this live on television, and they came on and said that Prescott Burgess from Warren Harding had just committed to Michigan, like within 24 hours of Ohio State winning the national championship. And the other story is Jim Tressel on signing day, when he announced that they got Dante Whitner, said that Dante Whitner remembered as a kid, he had seen Ohio State dominate and win the Rose Bowl in 1996, 97, 98, 99 when he was younger, elementary school, middle school. And that made the impression on him from that early stage that he wanted to be an Ohio State player. So I think in some respect, what you'll see is, or what we have seen is that this is something that's ingrained in kids when they're younger, and then when they get the chance to become a college athlete, like we just heard here with ADELEYE, he was predisposed to like Ohio State at an early age, and that impacted him. So I think now what you have is kind of a snowball effect where they get great quarterbacks, they're going to get great wide receivers. They get great offensive linemen, they're going to get great running backs, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it kind of just feeds off of itself at this point for Ohio State.
And I recall Sean Wade committing to Ohio State when they were right after they won their national title, that 2014 season. And it might have been that same night. And he committed and stayed, and he was a 2017 class member, so he committed well before he signed. So yeah, it's, I don't know if it hurts when you hear like recruits talking about, yeah, I grew up watching the Buckeyes win a national title as a kid way back in 2014, and it's like, no, come on, you can't say way back in 2014. It was just a few years ago. Cut us some slack. But they were like 11, 12 years old, but it sets that a little bit of inception in their brain, and it just puts that seed in there, and that's why anytime you can make these not these BCS bowls, but any of these big bowls, and that's why Notre Dame likes to go out to California, that's why Ohio State likes to go out to California, just to be seen, plant these seeds, and then maybe in 6 or 7 years you can go sign some trees out there.
The theory, when cable really expanded and the college football schedule went crazy from basically noon every Saturday until 2:00 in the morning, and then the Thursday and Friday games that used to be single games, and now you're seeing 4 and 5 matchups, was this would even the playing field, that because more programs got to get national attention, that this would even the playing field because anybody can be on TV. But it's done the exact opposite for whatever reason, or maybe that's had no factor in it at all.
I think it's helped everybody, but the haves will always be helped. Anything you give them, they can use, and they're always, one of the reasons I think they are the haves is because they push every limit, and anything you give them, they're going to put to good use. And it's helped Boise States and those, those types of schools, UCF, and just being seen. Even the MAC schools are getting seen more. I mean, heck, the MACtion everybody talks about now. But the reason that the haves are the haves is because they make use of every outlet or anything you want to give them. And, they're doing pretty well with that. And, we'll see what happens when there's scholarship changes that come, from the coronavirus, how the haves will continue to make use of that stuff as well.
My theory on Maction is that everybody knows it's going on on Tuesday and Wednesday nights and thinks it's cute, but nobody's actually watching it.
Especially when there's like a premier game and then there's a secondary game, and I agree. The audience is split enough, and then you're splitting the MAC audience as well.
Yeah, and there's a brand new Grey's Anatomy over on ABC, or a Chicago PD over on NBC on a Wednesday night. I'm sorry, that's Nathan Rourke and the boys, or whoever. I'm sorry. I'm going to be watching my first run network programming over on the other channel, but I thought Ohio University had a team last year or the year before that I thought could win the MAC and even compete, as we saw Western Michigan did with Fleck a few years ago. To be that team to make the New Year's Six, you have to go undefeated and hope that there's no other Group of 5 team that goes undefeated from the MAC to be able to do that. But they just seem to cannibalize one another, and they all end up like 6-4 or something at the end, and nothing to make your socks go up and down a whole lot, it seems, out of that league, other than what Fleck was able to do. And what was interesting was they played Wisconsin in the bowl game, and they lost like 34-20 or something. It was a close game, and his first Minnesota team got blown out by Wisconsin. And of course, they beat him, I think, the second year at Wisconsin, but and then lost to him this past year, the third year. But his Western Michigan team gave Wisconsin a better run than his first Minnesota team did, which I thought was kind of interesting.
The MAC has had a decent run against the Big Ten, and when I mean a decent run, I mean winning about 10% of the games. Then
Purdue's always good to doink one off to Eastern Michigan, and
Eastern Michigan, I think, knocked out Illinois last year. Purdue seems to take one on the chin about every other year. Northwestern, even the year that they won the Big Ten Western Division and went 8-1 in the Big Ten, lost to Akron. So there's a couple a year. There's about a 10%. I think it's about a 90-10 ratio still, but obviously those are the games that stand out.
Toledo got Michigan back in 2008, along with everybody else.
Toledo.
It's been close for the Buckeyes a few times. Bowling Green's given them a game against Tressel and the boys in like 2003. That was a good game. There was a game against John Cooper's like 92 team against Bowling Green. That was kind of an ugly like 14-6 game. But the Buckeyes have yet to get clipped against the MAC.